Welcome to episode 23 of Ralph's Stuff. Tonight we have down I26 into South Carolina for a scenic trip down the steepest part of I26 and up Highway 25 into North Carolina, equally steep but going the other direction. I think you'll enjoy this ride and we look forward to showing it to you. Welcome back to Ralph's Stuff. Spring has sprung. It's March 21st as I film this, and we're very glad to be able to show you one of our spring trips. This was to South Carolina last weekend, and although I normally do stuff just about North Carolina, our sister state is very interesting also, and we hope to bring you more of that in the future. But tonight we show you going down I-26 and coming back up Highway 25, both beautiful trips. We thank you for joining us. On Sunday, May 18th, we took a trip down I-26 into South Carolina. It's on March the 18th, and spring's starting to make its effects felt. It was a nice day and a perfect day for a drive. I-26 is interesting. From below Hendersonville to the South Carolina line, because in my opinion of the major roads in North Carolina, this one is the second most impressive engineering feat as we cross the really high bridge over the Green River Gorge. They say planes have flown under that bridge. I don't know. I would think anyone that did that would be rather of a fool. The greatest engineering feat in building a major highway, of course, was taking I-40 down Pigeon River Gorge to Tennessee. But they had a whole lot of trouble in doing I-26 down Saluda Mountain, which is one of the steepest grades in America, especially for the railroad that's existed here for many years. We're now, of course, in Henderson County, but we'll very shortly be in Polk County. Most of the steepest portion of I-26, in fact, all the steepest portion of I-26 is in Polk County. Polk County is one of the smallest counties in North Carolina. And county seat is Columbus, which we'll go very close to. The county was formed in 1855 from parts of Henderson and Rutherford County. And I always thought it was named after President James Polk, who was born in North Carolina. But instead I found out recently it was named for William Polk, who was a colonel in the American Revolutionary War. It's a rather small county. About 18,324 people as of the 2000 census. So small, very mountainous, but very beautiful. And we're approaching the turnoff to this very small mountain town of Saluda, which is well worth visiting. Although we don't go there today, we'll do that another time. I once interviewed the crooner Perry Como in Saluda. Very nice gentleman. He's since passed away. Very famous singer. Had a lot of hits in the 40s and early 50s and so forth. And he had a summer place in Saluda. Saluda is a really small town. Its population in 2000 was 575. Just a small, quiet country mountain town sitting at the top of the steepest regular gauge railway line east of the Rocky Mountains. Has a lot of art galleries and restaurants and general things to attract tourists. They have a town festival every year called Coon Dog Day, named after raccoon hunting dogs. Coon Dog Day features a beauty pageant in which the lucky winner is dubbed Coon Dog Day Queen. I'm not sure that's real luck, but that's what they say. Also, area children compete in contests for the title Coon Dog Prince and Princess, one of each. And also, a local boy is chosen as Coon Dog King. So that's something to look forward to if you want to gain fame by entering that contest in the town of Saluda. Getting back to the engineering feat of building this road a minute, we mentioned I-40 as being, in my opinion, the greatest engineering feat in building a large highway in western North Carolina, or the western North Carolina mountains to be more specific. Most of you are familiar with the travel western North Carolina between Asheville and Knoxville, familiar with all the landslides they have down that way. Even though the road was built about 40 years ago, they're still having landslides or rock slides, and the road occasionally gets closed and they have to detour down through Hot Springs or somewhere. The I26, when they were building the segment down Saluda Mountain to Columbus, had many of the same problems. They had a lot of problems with slides and stabilizing the sides of the road. Now, I-26 was a little bit more successful than I-40 in that they finally got it so that there are no problems, and the road stays open all the time and runs pretty nicely. Other than icing problems during the winter, which all roads have here in the mountains. And now we're coming up on the most interesting segment of I-26 between Hendersonville and the South Carolina line, and that's the extremely steep and quick dive from the altitude that of about 1,500, 2,000 feet or so here in the big valley that Asheville's in, down quickly to the Piedmont level, which South Carolina and the area from Charlotte west to the base of the Blue Ridge Mountains are. And as you can see looking out, it is quite a difference in elevation. We're going down now, and it's a tremendous view. You can see way out over North Carolina and South Carolina. You can see there, you get an idea of the scope of the view, which is really neat. Of course, like everywhere in the mountains, people building houses up on places they probably shouldn't be building them, but they do. As we go down the mountain. Coming back up is a little interesting if you get behind a truck trying to pass a truck, because the trucks come up rather slowly. It's a very steep grade, and big trucks like the 18-wheeler we saw over on the left have trouble passing and trouble making up the grade. But if you haven't driven this section of I-26, do it on a nice sunny day so you can enjoy the view. And we'll have to refilm this later in the spring when all the mountains are green. It's truly nice. And then we'll do it again in the fall when all the leaves are changing color, and it's absolutely gorgeous too when God throws his cloak of many colors over the western North Carolina mountains. And perhaps again in the winter when the mountains are white. That's the nice thing about living here in North Carolina, where we have 4 distinct seasons, yet they're not quite as extreme as they are in other areas. Okay, we've come down the mountain, and we're going back up a small grade here. It's not very much. And we're very soon past the Columbus exit, also the Highway 74 exit. If you're going to Charlotte now from Asheville, this is the way to come. Come down 26 and take this exit and take 74 over to Charlotte, or actually over to I-85 beyond Kings Mountain and then into Charlotte. It's a very quick and easy trip. Unlike how it was in past years when I had to go down that way. Up Highway 25 into North Carolina. This is occurring from the Greenville, South Carolina area. And we're heading up towards Hendersonville, our first major town in North Carolina. This is a continuation of the trip we made on March the 18th, Sunday, March the 18th, into South Carolina. Last week in episode 22 of Ralph Stuff, you saw the visit to our friend's farm in South Carolina. And in the preceding segment to this one, you saw the very first part of the trip down I26 into South Carolina. Later in the trip, we drove from Spartanburg over to Greenville. We didn't film much of the trip between Spartanburg and Greenville, although on that trip we visited the big German brand auto factory, world-class auto factory in South Carolina. They offer tours and show their high-performance track and everything. But that was a little bit too commercial, so we couldn't film it and show it here on public access television, other than a brief segment showing some ducks. High-performance German ducks that was in episode 21. That was fun. Greenville, we're in Greenville County, here in the western part of the state of South Carolina. Found out some interesting things about Greenville County and researching the for the show tonight. Greenville County, as of 2005, had a population of 407,383, making it the most populous county in the state. That was rather interesting to me because I had assumed that Columbia and Charleston would have been bigger than Greenville, and perhaps the cities are, but not the population of the entire counties they're in. We drove through Greenville, and I can tell you it's growing very rapidly, more rapidly, believe it or not, than Asheville. A lot of new buildings going up, some new high-rises. That's one thing we're not getting in Asheville recently, are new high-rise buildings. Not since the Northwestern Bank building was built back in I guess the late 60s, which was the highest building west of Charlotte and still is, I believe. But eventually population in Asheville will probably force development to go up. Anyway, getting back to getting back here to South Carolina. This is a very beautiful drive up Highway 25. It's 4-lane now, all the way up the mountain into North Carolina. And I always enjoy coming up this way, especially now that it is 4-lane. Many times I've had to drive up the mountain and it was twisty and turny in a little 2-lane road. So progress has come to the mountains, and there are much easier ways getting into that big valley up in the where Asheville's located than there used to be. We're no longer the isolated mountain fastness of the 19th and early 20th century, which is both good and bad. I like many of the aspects of Asheville in the 50s and 60s and 70s, but I also enjoy some of the new things that have come to the area with the greater population. Excuse me, better restaurants, more shopping opportunities, etc., etc. This is still reasonably flat here, but we're just now really starting up the mountains. Very nice drive, like I26, US Highway 25 goes up in altitude and in a very short distance, or down if you're coming the other way. And our friend's big old SUV that we're riding in has plenty of power, so it's seeding the grade up as we go up through here. No problem on that. Very, very beautiful in the summer when it's green. But a unique and stark beauty today in the early part of spring. Actually, this is still winter. Spring doesn't come along for another 2 or 3 days yet officially. Although here and there we see some white blossoms coming out on trees. Not in the picture right now, but during the trip we saw that. This is late in the evening, about around 6 p.m. as we move on up the mountain towards North Carolina. Not much traffic out today. Usually there's more traffic on 25. It's one of the main routes north and south. Most people going to Atlanta, for example, from Nashville would go this way. Although I think, depending on what part of Atlanta you're going to, going out through Franklin and taking 441 down through Georgia is a better way to go to Atlanta. You wind up northwestern Atlanta, but if you're going over in that area, it's a bit faster than going down this way and then hitting I-85 at Greenville and on down. Now there's a lot of traffic any time of the day or night. I-85 I-85 to Atlanta is filled with traffic. Lots of trucks, lots of cars, buses, you name it. Yeah, we're making a pretty good clip up the mountain here. The North Carolina line, which we'll be approaching very shortly here, is at pretty much the top of the grade, and then it levels out between the North Carolina line and Hendersonville. We'll be passing Flat Rock. And before that, Tuxedo, all those great little towns, mountain towns. And we are almost back to North Carolina. South Carolina's fine, but it's always good to get back to your home state. And being a native of North Carolina, I'm a Tar Heel born and bred. Even better than that, I'm a mountain Tar Heel. I remember when I was going to NC State University back in the 60s, they would rag me sometimes about being from the mountains, and I pointed out that our outhouses were considerably above their drinking water reservoirs. That would usually shut them up. Here's North Carolina line. Bingo! We leave South Carolina, we're in North Carolina. North Carolina, the old North State. That, by the way, for those newcomers who don't know it, is the state song in North Carolina, the state anthem. And we have about 7 or 8 miles to go to Hendersonville. Maybe a little bit more than that.
Was it moved up or something? Yeah.
But it's a nice flat drive. 4-lane for the majority of it, although there's still a brief segment of 2-lane over to I26. We had I26 at about just below the Upward Road exit. And then the main part exit to Hendersonville, Highway 64 is the next one beyond Upward Road. Hendersonville is a very nice town to visit also. I enjoy Hendersonville. A lot of good towns here in the mountains. Unique towns, different from what you find down in the flatlands. Lots of good places that we haven't even filmed yet, but you'll be seeing them on the various shows that I have here on Channel 20. Of course, Ralph stuff, and Rapid Ralph runs the roads at 6 p.m. on Saturdays are the two you'll see most scenery on. But I'm sure I'll be doing other shows from time to time also that feature various aspects and places of mountain culture and tradition. As we get passed by a truck. It's a pick-em-up truck. Very popular up here in the hills. I had a pick-em-up truck for a while myself. However, it was one of those small Japanese models, and I finally figured out that I could haul more in my old station wagon that I also had than I could in the pick-em-up truck, so I traded it back in. I like the concept of a truck, but I also prefer to have the things I'm carrying inside out of the weather. So I have an SUV, and we also have a minivan, which covers pretty much every eventuality you can have up here. The minivan's good for hauling stuff. The four-wheel drive's good for getting around in snow and up on top of mountains and places where you need the four-wheel drive. And it can haul a pretty good amount of things also. So I would say in western North Carolina, cars are not the most optimal vehicle you could have. But that's just my opinion. Not a very exciting stretch of highway, but still scenic and enjoyable to drive. Okay, we're coming up on an exit now. This is the exit to Flat Rock and Tuxedo. Go one way, you go to Flat Rock. Go the other way, you go to Tuxedo. Tuxedo is a small town. It has a very nice little lake in it. Used to be the main road went through Tuxedo, but this new 4 lanes bypassed it.
Yeah, I remember that one.
If you turn and go up towards Flat Rock, you're heading towards Hendersonville. Flat Rock, of course, was the home of the significant American poet Carl Sandburg for many years. Sandburg was an American poet, historian, novelist, balladeer, and folklorist. He was born in 1878 and died in 1967. H.L. Mencken called Carl Sandburg an American in every pulse beat. He was a successful journalist, poet, historian, biographer, and autobiographer. He wrote several biographies, such as the famous one of Abraham Lincoln, and won 2 Pulitzer Prizes. In 1940, as we come on to I-26 here, in 1945, the Sandburg family moved from the Midwest, where they'd spent most of their lives, to the Connemara estate in Flat Rock, North Carolina. Connemara was ideal for the families. It gave Mr. Sandburg an entire mountaintop to roam and enough solitude for him to write. It also provided Mrs. Sandburg with over 30 acres of pasture to raise and graze her prize-winning dairy goats. Mr. Sandburg, of course, died in 1967, but the National Park Service has preserved his estate, and you can visit it in Flat Rock, and I highly recommend it. And we're now, oops, I was wrong. I said we were turning onto I-26, but that's when I was looking at my notes about Carl Sandburg. Actually, we have about another mile or so to go before we get to I-26. But it's coming up rather quickly here. This is the two-lane connector between the four-lane that comes up to the Flat Rock exit and of course the four lanes of I-26. And I'm sure since this interconnector has a lot of traffic normally during the week, I'm sure they'll be converting it to four lane before too much longer. And yes, we're very close to I-26. And coming around the curve, see if we can see where we're at. Well, just a little bit more to go. But if you go to Lanoff, then you know this little stretch of road, and it's the only stretch of two-lane road you have between Asheville and Atlanta if you go this way. And it's 3-4 miles at the most. It's not very much. So depending on traffic, you can get through it. Of course, the real problem going anywhere south from Asheville is Malfunction Junction, where I-26 and I-40 intersect. I went down to Brevard last night on a job, and I had to go through Malfunction Junction, and made me about 10 minutes late. I should have factored that in. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the trip, and thanks for riding along with us. See you next week on Ralph's Stuff. Go to ralphwroberts.com to see this show again.